Ever wonder how much power you can squeeze out of an engine smaller than most motorcycles? We're talking about compact power plants that defy every rule of physics and common sense. These aren't your average street engines. They're mechanical marvels that prove displacement isn't everything. Today, we're counting down 10 tiny engines that can make over 1,000 horsepower. If you love engineering extremes, hit that like button and subscribe, because this list is about to blow your mind. Number 10, Subaru EJ25 and FA24. Let's start with something that might surprise you. Subaru's boxer engines. You know, those quirky flat fours that sound like they're perpetually angry? Well, turns out they have every right to be angry because they're absolute monsters when you build them right. The EJ25 and the newer FA24, 2.5 liters and 2.4 liters respectively. Not exactly massive, but here's the thing. These engines were never designed to make 1,000 horsepower. Subaru built them for rally cars and all-wheel drive sport compacts. Well, reliable, yes. Powerful enough, sure. But 4-digit horsepower? That wasn't on the original blueprint, and yet, here we are. The secret is in the bones. Take a stock EJ or FA block, it's not going to survive. The cylinder walls will crack, the bearings will spin, everything will grenaded spectacularly. So builders start with a closed-deck short block. That means the tops of the cylinders are fully supported, not open to the coolant jacket, much stronger, much more resistant to the pressures that come with extreme boost. Then you upgrade everything else. Forged pistons, billet connecting rods, a fully counterweighted crank shaft, upgraded head studs, port the heads, install bigger valves, upgrade the cams, then strap on a turbocharger the size of a basketball, and fuel, that's critical, ethanol. E85 specifically, higher octane than pump gas, burns cooler, allows more boost and more timing advance without detonation. That's the key to unlocking serious power from small displacement. Drag racers and time attack builders have been doing this for years. 1,000 to 1,200 wheel horsepower is the sweet spot. Some go higher, but at that point, you're playing with fire, or more accurately, with cylinder pressures that could turn your engine into a grenade. What's remarkable is how Subaru's original architecture, designed in the 1990s for rally homologation, can be transformed into something this extreme. The horizontally opposed layout keeps the center of gravity low. The all-wheel drive system puts all that power to the ground. And when you combine a bulletproof bottom end with modern turbo technology and E85, you get a 2.5-liter engine making the same power as a vintage big block V8. It's not cheap. A fully built EJ or FA setup capable of 1,000 horsepower will cost you anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 depending on how far you go. But the result is an engine that weighs less than 300 pounds and fits in a car the size of a shoebox. Well, a shoebox with all-wheel drive. And here's the kicker, these engines are still streetable. Yes, you'll need race fuel or ethanol. Yes, you'll need to upgrade the transmission and the differentials and pretty much everything else. But people drive these cars on public roads. They take them to car meets. They daily them, sort of. So yeah, Subaru's humble boxer 4s, from rally stages to drag strips, from 200 horsepower to 1,000 plus. Not bad for an engine layout most people associate with quirky hatchbacks and head gasket failures. Number 9, Nissan RB26DETT. Alright, let's talk about a legend. The Nissan RB26DETT, 6 cylinders, 2.6 liters, twin turbos, and a reputation that precedes it like thunder before lightning. This engine powered the Nissan Skyline GTR from 1989 to 2002. It was the heart of the R32, R33, and R34 GTR. Cars that dominated touring car racing. Cars that were so good they got banned from certain series. And at the core of all that success was this iron block straight 6. Now here's what's wild. From the factory, the RB26 made around 280 horsepower, officially. In reality, most made closer to 300. Nissan had a gentleman's agreement with other Japanese manufacturers to underrate their cars. But either way, 300 horsepower from 2.6 liters doesn't sound that impressive today. But the RB26 wasn't about what it made stock. It was about what it could make. The iron block is incredibly strong, overbuilt really. Nissan designed it to handle enormous amounts of boost and stress. The DETT designation means dual overhead cams and twin turbo, 2 little Garrett turbos, one for each bank of 3 cylinders, sequential, so they spool fast and provide a wide power band. And that's where the magic happens. Builders discovered early on that the RB26 could handle way more than Nissan ever intended. Crank up the boost, upgrade the fuel system, strengthen the internals, and suddenly you're making 500 horsepower, then 600, then 800. But we're not here to talk about 800, we're here to talk about 1,000 plus. Getting an RB26 to 4-digit power requires serious work. You start with the block stock, it's good to maybe 700, 800 horsepower if you're lucky. Beyond that, you need upgraded sleeves, better pistons, forged rods, a stronger crank. The factory oil pump struggles at high RPM, so you upgrade that. The factory head gasket gives up under extreme cylinder pressure, so you go with a multi-layer steel gasket and ARP studs. The turbos? Gone. You ditch the twins. Most builders go with a single big turbo, a Garrett GTX 42, maybe a Precision 7662, something that can flow enough air to make 1,000 horsepower, but still spool on 2.6 liters. It's a balancing act. Fueling is another challenge. The stock fuel system maxes out way before 1,000 horsepower. So you install bigger injectors, higher flow fuel pump, sometimes 2 pumps. You tune for E85 or even methanol, depending on how crazy you want to get. And oiling, that's critical. The RB's oiling system wasn't designed for sustained high RPM or extreme G-forces. So you add an external oil cooler, a bigger oil pan with baffles, an upgraded pump, anything to keep oil pressure where it needs to be. The result, an inline 6 that weighs around 450 pounds and makes 1,000 to 1,500 horsepower, depending on the build. It sounds like an orchestra. That straight 6 howl, the turbo whistle, the wastegate flutter, it's intoxicating. GTR owners have been doing this for decades. Drag cars, drift cars, half-mile roll racing cars. The RB26 is everywhere in the import performance world. And even though Nissan stopped making it over 20 years ago, it's still one of the most popular engines for extreme builds. So yeah, the RB26DETT, a 2.6-liter iron block straight 6 that weighs as much as a small refrigerator and makes enough power to embarrass cars with twice the displacement. Nissan built a legend and enthusiasts turned it into a monster. Number 8. Honda B18C. Honda's B18C, 1.8 liters, 4 cylinders. VTEC. And in stock form, about 190 horsepower. Cute, right? A tiny 4-cylinder from a 1990s Integra Type R. Revs to 8,400 RPM. Sounds like a swarm of angry bees. Makes teenagers at car meets very excited, but 1,000 horsepower? Come on. Except yes. 1,000 horsepower. From 1.8 liters. D-Sport magazine and a handful of top-tier Honda builders have proven it's not only possible, it's repeatable. Here's the thing about the B series. Honda built these engines to revert high compression, lightweight internals, variable valve timing via VTEC. They're not about low-end torque. They're about screaming to 9,000 RPM and making power all the way up. But that recipe, the one that makes them so fun on a back road, also makes them fragile when you add serious boost. The cylinder walls are thin, the sleeves can crack, the rods can bend, the pistons can melt. Basically, everything that makes a B-Series great at high RPM also makes it terrible at high boost. So builders start from scratch. They pull the block apart, they sleeve the cylinders. Not just any sleeves. We're talking ductile iron sleeves, precision honed with wall thickness that can handle insane cylinder pressures. Then they install forged pistons, low compression, usually around 8.5 or 9:1 to accommodate the boost. Billet connecting rods, a balanced and strengthened crankshaft. The head gets completely reworked, CNC porting, bigger valves, upgraded valve springs and retainers to handle higher lift and higher RPM, custom camshafts, and yes, they keep VTEC because even at 1,000 horsepower, VTEC crossover is still cool. Then comes the turbo, and not a small one. We're talking 72 millimeter or bigger. A Garrett GTX, maybe a precision turbo, something that can flow enough air to make 4-digit power, but still spool on 1.8 liters. Yeah, it's not easy. Bigger turbos have more lag, so tuners play with exhaust housing sizes, turbine wheel designs, all to find the sweet spot between power and response and fueling. The B-Series fuel system is, let's say, inadequate for 1,000 horsepower, so you upgrade to massive injectors, 2,000 cc injectors or bigger. A high-pressure fuel pump, sometimes a secondary fuel system running methanol or race gas. You tune on E85 or higher, and you cross your fingers. The transmission, that's another problem. Honda's B-Series transmissions weren't built for this, so you either build the stock gear box with better gears and synchros, or you swap to a dog box sequential. Most drag cars go sequential. It's faster and stronger. But when it all comes together, you get a 1.8 liter 4-cylinder that makes 1,000 wheel horsepower. It revs to 9,000 RPM. It weighs under 300 pounds, and it sounds like the end of the world. Sport famously built a B18 making over 1,000 wheel horsepower. It was a proof of concept. Could Honda's humble Integra engine compete with the big boys? Could 1.8 liters hang with the Supras and the GTRs and the Vipers? Turns out yes. Yes, it could. Is it practical? Absolutely not. The engine has to be rebuilt regularly. It's peaky as hell. The power band is narrow. You need to keep it on the boil, high in the RPM range to make any of that power. But for drag racing, time attack, or just bragging rights, it's glorious. So yeah, the Honda B18C, proof that with enough money, enough skill, and enough stubbornness, you can make a 1.8 liter engine as powerful as a Dodge Viper V10. Honda fanboys everywhere rejoice. Number 7. GM Ecotec 2.0 to 2.2 General Motors. Not exactly the first name you think of when it comes to high-performance 4 cylinders. But here's a secret. GM's Ecotec engine is a beast when you build it right. The Ecotec 2.0 or 2.2 liters, 4 cylinders, came in everything from Chevy Cobalts to Saturn Ions to Pontiac Solstices, Econo boxes, and budget sports cars. In stock form, about 140 to 260 horsepower, depending on the variant. Not inspiring, right? But GM did something interesting. They built race versions, factory-backed drag cars. The Cobalt SS and NHRA competition in those cars made 1,000 horsepower from a 2.2 liter 4-cylinder from an engine you could find in a rental car. That got people's attention. The Ecotec's strength is in its block. Cast iron, overbuilt, designed to handle boost because the factory turbocharged versions were already making decent power. So the bones were there. Builders just had to take it further. Start with the stock block, tear it down, replace the internals, forge pistons, billet rods, a balanced crank, upgrade the head studs to ARP, port the head, upgrade the valves, install stiffer valve springs, then bolt on a massive turbocharger. We're talking a precision 7662 or bigger, something that can flow serious air. Fuel system, bigger injectors, high flow pump, tune on E85 or race gas. Dyno tune until you get it right. And if you do it right, you get 1,000 horsepower. What's remarkable is how accessible this is. The Ecotec is everywhere. Junkyards are full of them, parts are cheap. And the aftermarket, thanks to the Cobalt SS and Solstice GXP communities, is robust. You can buy off-the-shelf parts to build a 1,000 horsepower Ecotec. You don't need custom fabrication or unobtainium parts from Japan. Drag racers figured this out years ago. The Ecotec became a staple in front-wheel drive drag racing. Cobalts running 9s and 10s in the quarter mile. All-wheel drive swaps putting down 4-digit power. And it's not just drag cars. Time attack builds, road race builds, even drift cars have used built Ecotecs. and GM's factory involvement legitimized it. When a manufacturer builds a race engine that makes 1,000 horsepower from 2.2 liters, it's not just a fluke, it's proof the platform can do it. And that opened the floodgates for enthusiasts to replicate it. So, yeah, the GM Ecotec, the underdog, the engine nobody expected, and yet here we are, 1,000 horsepower from a 4-cylinder that came in a Chevy Cobalt, American ingenuity at its finest. Number 6, Mazda 20B3 rotor. Now we're getting into the weird stuff. The Mazda 20B, a 3-rotor rotary engine, 2 liters of displacement, sort of. Rotary engines are different. They don't have pistons, they have rotors. Triangular rotors that spin inside an oval chamber. Each face of the rotor acts like a piston, so one rotor is kind of like a 2-cylinder engine. 3 rotors? Think 6 cylinders worth of combustion events, except it's smoother. No reciprocating mass, no pistons going up and down, just rotors spinning. The 20B came in the Mazda Cosmo from 1990 to 1996. Japan only. Twin turbo, about 300 horsepower stock, smooth as silk. Revs to 8,000 RPM. Sounds like a spaceship, but that's stock. And we're not here to talk about stock. The rotary community discovered early on that rotaries love boost, like really love boost, because there's no reciprocating mass, no pistons flying up and down. Rotaries can handle insane amounts of turbo pressure without grenading. The limiting factor isn't mechanical stress, it's heat. Rotaries run hot, really hot, and when you add boost, they run even hotter. But if you can manage the heat, you can make absurd power. And with a 3-rotor, you have more displacement and more combustion events than a 2-rotor. More potential. Builders take a 20B block, they reinforce the side seals. Upgrade the apex seals to something that can handle higher RPM and more boost. Port the housings for better flow. Then they ditch the twin turbos and install a single massive turbo. A Garrett GTX or a Borg-Warner EFR. Something that can flow enough air to feed 3 rotors spinning at 9,000 RPM. Fuel's critical. Most builds run E85 or methanol. Higher octane, cooler combustion temps, more power. You need a massive fuel system. Upgraded injectors, multiple fuel pumps, a standalone ECU to manage it all, and cooling. Oh man, cooling's everything. Rotaries generate heat like a nuclear reactor, so you need a huge radiator, an oil cooler, sometimes water methanol injection to keep intake temps down. If you don't manage the heat, the engine will overheat and the apex seals will fail. And then you're rebuilding the whole thing. But when you get it right, a built 20B makes 1,000 to 1,500 horsepower. It weighs around 300 pounds. It revs to 9,000 RPM or higher. And it sounds like nothing else on earth. That signature rotary scream, like a banshee mixed with a turbine engine. Drift teams love the 20B. It's compact, it's light, and it makes gobs of power, and it revs forever. You see them in Formula Drift cars and time attack builds, in drag cars. They're not common because building a rotary to this level is expensive and requires specialized knowledge, but when you see one, you know you're looking at something special. So yeah, the Mazda 20B, 2 liters, 3 rotors, 1,000 horsepower. Proof that you don't need pistons to make stupid amounts of power. Number 5, Audi Volkswagen 2.5 TFSI inline 5. Here's one that surprised everyone. Audi and Volkswagen's 2.5-liter turbocharged inline 5. The Daza engine, you know, the one in the RS3 and the TTRS. From the factory, it makes around 400 horsepower, which is already impressive for 2.5 liters. But here's the thing, that's just the beginning. The Daza engine is overbuilt. Audi designed it to handle boost. Lots of boost. The block is iron, the internals are strong, the turbo is a decent size, and the engine management is sophisticated. It's a recipe for tuning potential. Stage 1 tune, you're at 500 horsepower. Just a software flash. Stage 2, bigger turbo, upgraded intercooler, maybe 650 horsepower. Still pretty streetable. But we're not here to talk about 650, we're here to talk about 1,000 plus. Getting a Daza to 4-digit power requires a full build. Built internals, forged pistons, billet rods, upgraded crank, a massive turbo, We're talking a full-frame turbo, something like a Garrett G Series or a Precision 76mm. The stock turbo's tiny by comparison. Then you upgrade everything else. Fueling, you need high-flow injectors and pumps to feed the engine. Most builds run E85. The stock fuel system can't handle it, so you go bigger. Then you upgrade the intercooler to something the size of a small refrigerator. Boost pressures at 1,000 horsepower are insane, and if the intake temps get too high, the engine will knock and destroy itself. Transmission is another issue. The stock dual-clutch gearbox can handle maybe 700 horsepower before it starts slipping. Beyond that, you need upgraded clutch packs, better software, or a completely built transmission. Some drag cars ditch the DCT entirely and go with a sequential, but the result is incredible. 1,000 to 1,300 wheel horsepower from a 2.5-liter inline 5. The engine still revs to 7,000 RPM. It still sounds like an old Quattro rally car, and it's still compact enough to fit in a hatchback. The RS3 community has gone absolutely nuts with this engine. Drag cars running 8s in the quarter mile, roll racing cars hitting 200 miles per hour. And the all-wheel drive system means all that power actually gets to the ground. You're not spinning tires, you're launching like a missile. What's wild is how new this is. The Daza engine only came out in 2015, and within a few years, builders were already cracking 1,000 horsepower. It's become one of the most popular platforms for high horsepower all-wheel drive builds. And Audi didn't even try to make it a 1,000 horsepower engine. They just built it strong enough that enthusiasts figured out how to get there. That's the beauty of over-engineering. So yeah, the Audi VW 2.5 TFSI inline 5, a modern engine that proves you don't need a V8 to make supercar power. Just boost. Lots and lots of boost. Number 4. Mitsubishi 4G63. The Mitsubishi 4G63. 2 liters, 4 cylinders, turbo, the engine that launched 1,000 imports. This is the engine in the Lancer Evolution, the Eclipse GSX, the Talon TSI, the Gallant VR4. Basically, if Mitsubishi made a performance car in the 90s or 2000s, it had a 4G63 under the hood. Stock, it made anywhere from 210 to 300 horsepower, depending on the model. The Evo 9's engine made around 286 horsepower, not bad for 2 liters. But again, we're not here for stock. The 4G is legendary for its tuning potential. You can make 500 horsepower on the stock internals. Seriously, just a bigger turbo, better fueling, and a tune, the engine handled it. But once you go beyond that, you need to build it, and people have been building 4G engines for decades. The formula is well known: forged pistons, billet rods, upgraded crank, ARP head studs, port the head, bigger cams, then strap on a turbo the size of your head, a Garrett GT35, a Precision 7662, something in that range. Fueling, E85 or race gas, bigger injectors, upgraded pumps, standalone engine management. Because the stock ECU can't handle the load, then you tune, and tune, and tune, until you're making 1,000 horsepower or more. The Evo community has perfected this. Drag cars making 1,500 horsepower. Time attack cars making 1,200. Drift cars, rally cars, street cars. The 4G is everywhere. And it's not just the engine. The whole platform is strong. The all-wheel drive system can handle the power. The chassis is stiff. The aftermarket is huge. You can buy literally any part you need to build a 1,000 horsepower 4G, and it'll show up at your door in 2 days. What's remarkable is how long this engine has been relevant. Mitsubishi introduced the 4G63 in 1987. That's over 35 years ago, and it's still one of the most popular engines for high horsepower builds. That's longevity. And it's not because the engine is perfect. It's not. The crank walks on some models. The oil pump can fail. The ringlings crack if you run too much boost on stock internals. But the aftermarket figured out fixes for all of it. The 4G became a known quantity, and when something is well understood, people push it further. So yeah, the Mitsubishi 4G63, The engine that defined import tuning, 2 liters, 4 cylinders, and enough history to fill a book. 1,000 horsepower, child's play for this legend. Number 3, Honda K20 and K24, Honda's K-Series, the K20 and K24, 2 liters and 2.4 liters respectively, 4 cylinders, VTEC, and the successor to the legendary B-Series. Stock, the K makes anywhere from 200 to 250 horsepower, and depending on the variant. The K20A from the Integra Type R and Civic Type R makes around 220. The K24 and the TSX and Accord makes a bit less, but they all rev high. They all sound amazing, and they all have massive tuning potential. The K-Series is everything Honda learned from the B-Series, but better. Stronger block, better oiling, more displacement, better head design. It's like Honda looked at every weakness of the B and said, okay, let's fix that. And the result is an engine that can handle way more power. Stock internals, you can push to around 500 horsepower with a good turbo kit. Not too shabby, but we're not here for 500, we're here for 1,000 plus. Top-tier Honda shops have been building K-Series engines to 1,000, 1,200, even 1,500 horsepower. The formula is similar to the B-Series. Sleeve the block, forged pistons, billet rods, balance crank, ARP studs, port the head, bigger valves, custom cams, upgraded VTEC components. Then you bolt on a 76mm turbo, something ridiculous. A Precision or Garrett, you upgrade the fuel system to support E85 or methanol, massive injectors, multiple fuel pumps, standalone ECU, and you tune. The K-Series loves to rev. Even with a big turbo, you can spin it to 9,000 RPM. And because it's Honda, it sounds incredible doing it. That high-pitched scream, the VTEC crossover, the turbo whistle, it's automotive ASMR. The aftermarket for the K is insane. You can buy anything, billet blocks, custom sleeves, race spec heads, off-the-shelf turbo kits. The K-Series has become the default choice for Honda enthusiasts who want big power. And it's not just drag cars, time attack cars, drift cars, even some road race cars. The K is light, it revs, and it makes power. What more do you want? What's wild is how the K has eclipsed the B-Series in popularity. The B was king for years, but the K is just better in every way. Stronger, more displacement, better head design, and once people realized it could make 1,000 plus horsepower, the B became yesterday's news. So yeah, the Honda K20 and K24, proof that Honda still knows how to build a 4-cylinder, and proof that with enough boost, enough fuel, and enough RPM, 2.4 liters can embarrass engines twice its size. Number 2, Nissan SR20DETT. Nissan's SR20DET, 2 liters, 4 cylinders, turbo, and one of the most iconic engines in the import world. The SR came in the Silvia, the 180SX, the Pulsar GTIR. Japan got all the cool stuff. America got, well, not the SR. We got the naturally aspirated KA24, thanks Nissan. But the SR20DET became legendary anyway. Why? Because it was the perfect drift engine. 2 liters, rear-wheel drive, turbo. It made around 200 to 250 horsepower stock. Enough to break the rear tires loose, enough to have fun, but also enough to want more. And the SR delivered. The aftermarket exploded. Turbo kits, upgraded internals, bigger injectors, standalone ECUs. People swapped SRs into everything. S13, S14, S15 Silvias, 240SXs, even non-Nissan cars. The SR became the engine to have if you wanted to drift. But drifting doesn't need 1,000 horsepower. Drag racing does. And that's where the SR really shined. Builders figured out the SR could handle way more than anyone expected. The iron block is strong, the head flows well, the turbo responds quickly, so they built them. Forged internal sleeves, upgraded oil pumps, big turbos, 70+ millimeter turbos, race fuel or E85. And they made 1,000, 1,500, even 2,000 horsepower. Yes, 2,000 from 2 liters. How? Billet blocks. Top drag teams started using aftermarket billet SR blocks, no sleeves needed. Just pure aluminum or iron billets machined to perfection. Stronger than anything Nissan ever made. Then they bolted on turbos so big they needed their own zip code, and they fed them with fuel systems that could supply a small airplane. The result? 2 liters making power levels that would make a top fuel dragster blush. Well, okay, maybe not that much, but still. 2,000 horsepower from a 4-cylinder is absurd, and even at 1,000 horsepower, which is more common, the SR is a beast. Drag cars, drift cars, time attack cars. The SR is everywhere, and the community is massive. Parts are available, knowledge is shared. If you want to build a 1,000 horsepower SR, there are a dozen shops that can do it and 100 forum threads explaining how. What's remarkable is how the SR has stayed relevant. Nissan stopped making it in 2002, over 20 years ago, and yet it's still one of the most popular engines for high horsepower builds. That's staying power. So yeah, the Nissan SR20DET, 2 liters of turbocharged fury, drift car hero, drag car legend, and proof that you don't need a lot of displacement if you have a lot of boost. Number 1, BMW M12/13 1.5 liter Turbo 4. Alright, number 1, and this one is bonkers, the BMW M12/M13 1.5 liters, 4 cylinders, turbo, and in qualifying trim 1,400 to 1,500 horsepower from 1.5 liters. Let that sink in. This is the engine that powered BMW's Formula One cars in the 1980s, the turbocharged era of F1, when regulations allowed forced induction and teams went absolutely insane with boost pressures. The M12/M13 was based on BMW's road car 4-cylinder, but calling it the same engine is like calling a fighter jet a Cessna because they both have wings. BMW's motorsport division took the basic architecture and turned it into a bomb. The engine had a cast iron block, forged internals, a single turbocharger. In race trim for the actual Grand Prix, it made around 850 horsepower, which is already insane. 850 horsepower from 1.5 liters. That's 567 horsepower per liter. Unheard of at the time, but qualifying trim, that's where it got stupid. Teams would turn up the boost, way up. They'd use exotic fuel blends. Toluene, nitromethane, stuff that barely qualified as gasoline. They'd tune the engine to run on the ragged edge of detonation, and they'd get one lap, one flying lap. Because after that, the engine was toast. Pistons melted, bearings gone. Basically a grenade with a timing belt. But for that one lap, the M12/M13 made 1,400 to 1,500 horsepower from 1.5 liters. That's 1,000 horsepower per liter, or close to it. Let's put that in perspective. A modern NASCAR engine makes around 850 horsepower from 5.8 liters. That's 147 horsepower per liter. A top fuel dragster makes over 10,000 horsepower from 8.2 liters. That's 1,220 horsepower per liter. The BMW M12/M13 was almost at top fuel levels in a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder in 1986. How did they do it? Boost. Stupid amounts of boost. We're talking 4 bar, 5 bar, 50, 60 PSI or more. Cylinder pressures that would make a diesel engine nervous. And the fuel. Oh, the fuel. It was basically rocket fuel. The octane ratings were off the charts. It burned hotter, faster, and more violently than anything you'd put in a street car. And cooling? Forget it. The engine ran so hot that teams would sometimes pack ice around it before qualifying, just to get the temps down enough to survive one lap. After the lap, the engine would be pulled, torn down, and rebuilt every single time.